Chapter 9, Untitled by Dabolkar. I bow down Shri Ganesh, I bow down Shri Saraswati, I bow down the Guru, I bow down the family Dinti, I bow down Shri Sita Ramchandra, I bow down Shri Satguru Sai Nath. Now to continue the story of how the devotees faced troubles when they insisted on returning to their destinations without Baba's permission, and also of the mendicant lifestyle of Baba which he had adopted and which he practiced until the end for the washing of the 5 sins for the sake of the good of his devotees. Beginning from Brahma, the permanent and immovable, and ending with all immovable objects, Sai himself is manifest everywhere. Sai being kind imprinted on all minds that God exists in all creatures. Therefore, all you listeners, I appeal to you to listen with attention. By listening to these holy stories, you will accomplish your own well-being. This was a characteristic of the pilgrimage to Shirdi, that if a devotee would try to return without Baba's permission, he would be inviting trouble. But once permission is given, it was impossible to stay in Shirdi even for a moment. If one stayed on, difficulties would be faced. This was the experience of all. Those who disobeyed his wishes suffered on the way. Some were robbed, and they remembered their experience till the end of life. If he asked them to eat little and then leave, and if still a person hurriedly left without food, he would not catch the train and would also go hungry. Many devotees experienced this. Once Patil Tatyakote was going to Kopergaon, where the weekly bazaar was held. On the way, he came to the masjid. He asked for the tanga to wait, came and took Baba's darshan, bowed down at his feet and pretended to ask for permission to leave. The devotee may try to evade, but Baba was aware of the propitious moment or otherwise. Seeing that Tatya was in a hurry, he asked him to wait for a while. Let the bazaar take place. Don't leave the village. But seeing that Tatya was very keen, he asked him to take Shama along. What is the point in taking Shama? Thinking thus, he disregarded his order and went and sat in the tanga and set off for the bazaar. Out of 2 horses, one was very active and restless. It cost rupees 300. When they neared the well at Saul, it became unresistant. The horse was never needed whipping and would reach the bazaar within an hour. Suddenly got a catch in his back and began limping. So neither the market nor the shopping. Tatya remembered Sai mother and felt that if he had obeyed timely, he would have avoided the accident. But nothing can be done about things past. On other occasion, a similar incident took place. Tatya set out to go to Kolhar village. He hastened the tanga and came to seek permission and boarded Baba's feet. I will just go and return, he said. He had not got his consent. Nevertheless, Tatya went ahead and left. Listen to what happened next. The tanga had a horse which ran uncontrollably. The horse started rearing. He did not pay heed to the hurdles or obstacles on the way. It was a question of life and death. Be it so. With Sai's grace, that danger was averted. The tanga dashed against the babool tree. It was fortunate that it broke there. Further danger was averted. Similarly, an European gentleman residing in Bombay came for Sai's darshan with some inner motives. He had some influence with Chandorkar, who wrote a letter to Madhav Rao. He asked for a tent and stayed there comfortably. Could anyone dare to climb the steps of the masjid and return after taking darshan at one's sweet will? Against Baba's permission, it was known to everyone that this was impossible. He tried thrice to climb the steps of the masjid, but it was all in vain. The spirits of the guests were dampened. His inner wish was to climb up the steps of the masjid, bow down to Baba by falling on his knees and sit down there after kissing his hands. That was his wish. But Baba did not let him come up to sit close to him in the masjid at that time. He should be down in the courtyard and sit there only. If he wanted, he could take the darshan from there only. But he should not come up. Be it so. Later on, he thought of leaving. He came into the courtyard to take leave. Then Baba said he should go next day. Why is there so much of a hurry? A lot of people told him and requested him in several ways not to go. Those who left without permission had greatly repented. They said, "Nothing can prevent what is fated." He did not follow the advice and left without permission. He suffered on the way. At first the carriage went well. Later on, the horses left the track. When they were beyond the well at Saul, a bicycle came in the way. The gentleman was seated in the rear of the carriage. Suddenly, the carriage gave a jerk. It lost its balance and overturned on the road. With great efforts, the carriage was controlled. The man got dragged for some distance. Then he was picked up and put into the carriage, which then moved forward again. Shirdi was left behind on one side. Bombay was on the other side. The carriage was then taken in the direction of the hospital at Kopargaon. So be it. The man stayed there for some days, repentant and distressed. He was undergoing the punishment due to his disobedience as per his destiny. There were many such instances. People began to have fear and apprehension and began to obey Baba's wishes. They dared not disobey. In some cases, the wheel of the carriage came off. In some cases, the horses got tired. In other cases, they missed the trains. They remained hungry and had to survive on puffed rice. On the contrary, those who respected his wishes were able to catch the trains even at odd times. They had a pleasant journey and remembered it throughout their life. If people have doubts about why Baba preferred to beg for alms for years together, then get the doubts cleared and bear in mind the clarification. If we look at Baba's lifestyle, it seems that it was the right thing for him to do, to beg alms, because it gave pleasure to the people and would do good to them to fulfill their duties as householders. The one who surrenders body, speech, mind, wealth at Sai's feet, such a devotee is deeply loved by Sai. The householder is in charge of whatever food is cooked in the home. He has to offer the food to a mendicant and a brahmachari in the first place. The householder who partakes of food without giving it to them has to perform the Chandrayan Vrat, which is advocated by the Shastras as a means of threefold purification. It is forbidden for the mendicants and the brahmacharis to cook. If they do, they will have to forcibly observe the Chandrayan Vrat. Therefore, the Shastras have placed the onus of taking care of their needs on the householder. Mendicants never exert themselves to fulfill their hunger. Baba was never a householder and did not become a vanaprasthachari. He was only a brahmachari from his youth and also a sannyasi. Therefore, to beg alms was the rightful thing for him to do. The whole universe is my home. I am myself Vasudev, an all-pervading God. I am myself Parabrahma. One who has such firm convictions has the fullest right to beg alms. He believed in the philosophy that the whole world is one family. The others make mockery of this philosophy, as can be seen on all crossroads. At the outset, one should give up the wish for a son, then lust for wealth and status. One who has given up these three desires, he only has the right to beg for alms. Otherwise, as Tukaram quotes, be upon that life depending upon charity and begging, because it is useless without understanding the meaning of such a life. The great Sai is very great Siddha or Yogi, that is known to all, young and old. But we who are full of worldly ties do not devotedly attach to this divine feat. Without the 5 sacrifices, the householder is advised against eating of food, but Sai would perform these sacrifices and get the food cooked and daily purified the meals. Every day he would go to 5 houses and remind the host about the Atiti Yagna. So the persons were really fortunate who could sit at home and earn the punya. Those people who, after performing the Pancha Mahayagnas, ate the remaining food were saved from the terrible and unknown 5 sins, because the sins were burnt. The well-known 5 sins are Khandani, pestle, chuli, lighting the hearth fire, udkumbi, water pots, peshani, grinding, marjani, sweeping. The grains are put in the pot, ukal, and the pestle strikes the grain so that the cuff is removed, and unknowingly during this activity lives are destroyed. But the grains are not edible without the above mentioned treatment. Therefore, the sin known as Khandani is counted first in the list of pansunas. In the stove, wood is burnt and cooking is done. There also, without knowing, life is destroyed. This sin is known as chuli, second sin. Even in grinding stone or wooden grinding mill, when grains are ground unknowingly, innumerable lives are destroyed. That sin is known as peshani. When people bring water in the pots from a well or a lake or a tank, or when men and women wash clothes, innumerable lives are destroyed. While cleaning the pot, scrubbing and rubbing with the hands, unwittingly, life is destroyed. This is the fourth of sin of Utkumbhi. Similarly, when bathing in lukewarm water or while sprinkling cow dung on the floor, life is destroyed pitiably. This sin is called as Marjani. In order to be free from these 5 sins, a householder has to perform these 5 Mahayagnas, after which the sins are destroyed and he attains purity. This is the power of purity of mind. The pure knowledge that is gained is sinless. After knowledge, liberation is secured. This is the attainment of the goal of life. So be it. This was Baba's philosophy of Mendicancy, writing about which has increased the pages of this book. Listen to a different type of story. Then we will close this chapter. There should be only love in your heart. If anyone sent anything before him with someone, and if that person forgot, Baba would not forget to ask. Whether it was a vegetable or bhakri or sweetmeats, the devotion should be strong. When Sai came across such a devotee in whom there was such faith, then his love would swell. This is the story of a loving devotee which will be a pleasure to hear. If anyone forgets the task assigned to him, Baba himself guides him to the right path. His teaching was so agreeable. He gave necessary and timely awakening. Fortunate were those who experienced it, and their bliss was inexplicable. For one of his leading devotees, Ramchandra, whose father was Atmaram and whose surname was Tarkhad, Sai was a heaven of refuge. But as he was known as Balasaheb Tarkhad by all, we will use the same name in this book, as it is not necessary to use the other name. While overflowing love for Sai, Tarkhad used to be overwhelmed and as it were be anointed by it. And when he described his experiences, listening to them was pleasure. And how great was his devotion! At every step he would experience Sai, and each one would be more marvelous than the other. He would relate these experiences accompanied by appealing gestures. Baba Sahib was an unparalleled devotee. He had a painting of Sai's image at his home in a huge, beautiful sandalwood shrine, which he worshipped thrice a day. Tarkad was very fortunate in having a son equally devoted to Sai. He did not even eat his food till he offered Naivedya to Sai. Having taken a bath early morning, he would always perform the puja of the picture with his whole heart, mind, speech, and body, and offer Naivedya full of devotion. This was his daily routine, which was carried on without exception. His labor bore fruit. He had excellent experiences. Even his mother was a great devotee of Sai. She had a desire to go to Shirdi, and the father wished that the son should accompany her. She wished to go to Shirdi, take darshan of the powerful Lord, spend some days there, and actually serve at his feet. Although his father wished it, the son did not wish to go, as he was worried as to who would perform the puja regularly at the home. His father was Pratnasmajas. Would it be right to ask him to take the trouble to do image worship? This was a big dilemma for the son. Nevertheless, knowing his wishes, the son got ready to leave. He entreatingly and lovingly requested his father, listen to that wonderful story. Unless Sai is offered Naivedya, no one should eat the food at home. Until this is promised, I won't be able to go carefree. The father already knew the son's daily ritual. He said, go, I will do the Naivedya regularly. You may remain without any anxiety. Before making the offering to Sai, no one will partake of the food. Take this as my word of honor and do not hesitate go at ease. Having been thus assured, the boy left for Shirdi. Then from the next day, Tarkad himself did the puja. The next day, before starting the puja, Baba Sahib Tarkhad came before the portrait, prostrated himself and prayed, Baba, accept my service in the same way as my son was doing the puja. Let it not be just a drill on my part. pour your love into my heart. Having bathed early morning, Tarkhad began doing the puja with devotion every day and offering Naivedya also. Baba Sahib used to offer a piece of rock sugar in the Naivedya regularly. This practice continued uninterruptedly, but one day it was broken. Once being preoccupied with official matters, Tarkad forgot and everybody had their meals without Naivedya one day. Tar- Tarkat Sahib was the chief officer of a big mill. Therefore, in the morning he had to go out every day for his work. Then, by the time it was no afternoon, he returned. As mentioned earlier about the sugar prasad, when he sat down to his meals, he partook of it. This was the usual practice. On one occasion, he forgot. The sugar was not put in the Naivedya, and he also did not get the prasad. Every day, the cook would serve the piece of sugar last when he started his meals, as if it was the purification of the food. But on that day, at the time of the puja, there was some hurry and the sugar naivedya remained undone. Therefore, he also had no prasad. Immediately, Tarkat left his meal and, being very repentant, bowed down to the portrait of Sai and with tears in his eyes said, Baba, what illusion have you shown? How did you cause this confusion of mind? How did you let me just do a drill? First, forgive me. It's not a mistake but a great sin. I am greatly repentant. A mistake, but I did not deliberately make the mistake. Please be merciful to me, Maharaj. He prostrated himself at the foot of the portrait. He was full of remorse. He said, Maharaj, cloud of mercy, have pity on me. Saying this, he sent a letter to his son in a great humility and shame. A great error has been committed by me. Pray that I may be forgiven. Have mercy on one who has completely surrendered. Pray entreatingly to Sai in these words. Ask for this humble servant his gesture of forgiveness and his assuring words. This incident took place at Bandra, where Shirdi was 100 kos away, but the news reached there immediately. Listen to Baba's words about it. Now have the proof of Maharaj's ability of the knowledge without distortion, beyond time and place and about the past, present and future. On that day, here, while the sun was in Shirdi, at that very moment, what happened when he bowed down at Sai's feet, the listener should hear carefully. The son, full of enthusiasm, came with his mother to pay homage. Listening to what Sai said to his mother astonished him. Oh, mother, what should be done today? When I went to Bandra, as usual, I did not get anything to eat or drink rice water and had to return hungry. Mark the bonds that we have from the past births. Even if the doors are closed, I entered at my own sweet will. Who can obstruct me? The master of the house was not at home. I was ravenously hungry. I had to return without food in the heat of the afternoon sun. When he heard these words, the son immediately realized that his father perhaps had forgotten to offer Naivedya. The son requested Baba to let him go home, but Baba did not allow him and got him to do the puja there only. That very day he sent a detailed letter from Shirdi. On receiving and reading that letter, the father's heart melted. His letter was also received there, the letters crossed. The son was also surprised, his eyes also filled with tears, which rolled down. See the spot of Sai. Would love not gush forth? Who would be so stone-hearted who would not melt by this? Now listen to the miracle about Baba's favour shown to the loving mother of this very boy. Once when she was in Shirdi, when she was in the kitchen and the leaf plates were set for the meal in the afternoon, a hungry dog came to the door. A piece of bhakri which was in her plate was about to be given by her to the dog, when a pig aspirated with mud arrived there, oppressed with hunger. She fed both. This incident happened in its natural course. She did not give any importance to this or bear it in her mind, but Sai on his own opened this topic when she was present. After the afternoon lunch, when the lady came as per usual practice and sat in the masjid at some distance, Sai said kindly, Oh mother, you fed me today, because of which I am full up to my throat. I was overcome with hunger and you satisfied me. You must act like this always. Truly, only this will prove useful ultimately. Sitting in the masjid, I do not ever speak an untruth. This is the universal truth. Know that this is the kindness which I preach. Give food to the hungry first and then eat yourself. Remember this clearly in your mind. What did Sai Samartha say? The lady could not understand anything, but what was the implied meaning of this? His words were never futile. She said, "How could I have served you? How could it happen at my hands? I am dependent. I spend and eat whatever I can get, whatever I can get." Baba, answering her, said, "Savoring that lovingly given chapati, I became fully satisfied and I am still eating. When you sat down for your meals, you suddenly saw a dog come to the door which was suffering from extreme hunger. I am one with that dog. Similarly, I am one with that pig, aspirated with mud, which was also hungry and miserable." When she heard Baba's words, the lady was very much surprised. Dogs, pigs, cats, which wander, are they one with Baba? Sometimes I'm a dog, sometimes a pig, sometimes I'm a cow, sometimes a cat, sometimes an ant, a fly, or fish. I move about in different forms. That person who sees me in all the creatures, you must understand, is my beloved one. Give up the belief in the twofold nature and worship me in this manner. These were not just ordinary words, but nectar. She was overwhelmed with emotions. Her eyes fulfilled with tears. Her eyes were filled with tears of happiness and her throat was choked with emotion. Similarly, there is another story of this lady which is wonderful and depicts love. It shows the oneness of the great Sai with his devotee and that the two Atmas are one. Once when Purandare with his wife and children set out for Shirdi, she gave him brinjals with affection which she requested his wife to make bharta, with one for Baba and Kachriya crisp and brown from the other, and feed him heartily with them. His wife accepted the brinjals, and when she reached Shirdi after the aarti at lunchtime, she took the bharta. As was the custom, the lady offered Nevedya, kept the thali, and left. Baba collected everybody's Nevedya and sat down for the meal. When he tasted the bharta, he relished it and shared it with everyone. He felt like eating kachriyas and asked for them at that time. A message was sent to Radhakrishna Ai that Baba is waiting to finish his meal and he desires to have kachriya. No one knew what to do about it. That was not the season for brinjal, so how could that preparation be made? Therefore, a search for Andre's wife was made and for the bhatta. The bhatta was in the thali which she had brought. Therefore, it was possible that she might be having some spare brinjals. When she was questioned about it, all came to understand about the significance of the kachriya and also about Baba's keenness for them. The lady said that out of one brinjal, bhatta was made and offered in the afternoon, and had thought that she would take the kachriya later on. Therefore, the second one had been cut up accordingly. Later on, when this episode about the brinjals came to be known to everybody gradually, everyone was surprised at seeing Sai's all-knowing nature. Again, in the month of December 1915, the same lady sent a peda for Baba with. Since Balram had expired to perform the last rites, his son had to go to Shirdi. He had come to take leave and ask if there was any message. The son came to Tarkhad to say that he was leaving. The wife felt like sending something for Baba with him. Except for the peda, there was nothing else to be found in house. Moreover, the peda had already been offered in the Nevedya. The son was also in a hurry to leave. Besides, the sun was in the morning period. There was only one peda left over. She sent that itself with him as an offering for Sai to eat. She said she had nothing else. Take this only. Give this with love to Sai. Sai will eat it with pleasure. Govindji took the peda with him, but when he went to take the darshan, he forgot it at the place where he stayed. Baba was yet quite patient. Afterwards, in the late afternoon, when he came into the bar hall like the previous time, he forgot and came empty-handed into the masjid. "What have you brought for me?" Baba casually asked him. "Nothing at all," said he, at which Baba tried to hint and remind him. "Has no one given you anything for me?" On his saying no, Sai Samartha directly questioned. "Oh, when you left home, did not mother give you a sweet lovingly?" Then he remembered. He was very much ashamed. He did How did he forget? With his face downcast, he asked for forgiveness and bowed down at his feet. He went running to his place, brought the peda, and gave it to Baba. As soon as he got it in his palm, he put it in his mouth and thus gratified the feelings of the mother. Such is the great Sai, Mahanubhav Yogi. He reciprocates the feelings by giving the experiences. He increases the prestige of his devotees. The essence of these stories is that one should perceive God in all living beings. This is also acknowledged by all the Shastras. The same is the doctrine of these. Now, while listening to the next chapter, you will understand about Baba's mode of living, where he used to sleep and at which place. Listen to that carefully. Hemad surrenders at Sai's feet. Listeners, think about the foregoing stories with respect and meditation daily, and you will be benefited. May there be well-being. This is the end of the 9th chapter of Shri Sai Samatha Satcharitra, written by the devotee Hemad Pant, implied by the saint and virtuous people. This is offered to Sri Sadguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness.